My name is Marie Grant. I was 18 years old the night my life split into two. February 12th, the night I died for 9 minutes and 36 seconds. That night, my car hit a tree because I looked down at my phone. I grew up in Milfield, Oregon. It was a small town, the kind you can miss if you blink, but in some ways it felt like the whole world to me. Surrounded by towering evergreens and heavy fog that rolled in every morning, almost like it was hiding secrets. My life was simple, nothing extraordinary. I was a high school junior, always tired, always running late, always thinking I was supposed to be somewhere else. I had two younger brothers, Ethan and Caleb, loud, messy, always taking my stuff. They were always in my way, but I couldn't help but love them. My parents? They worked a lot. Always different shifts, it felt like. Sometimes I'd go days without really seeing them. It was like we all lived in the same house, but in different worlds. I was on the volleyball team, not the best, but good enough to start when they needed me. I studied just enough to keep my grades decent, not because I cared that much about school, but because that's what was expected of me. My world was mostly made up of school, practice, and my phone. Always my phone. I'd stare at it, waiting for any sign that I mattered. A notification, a message, a like. Back then, it felt like everything I was right there in that screen. I had over 200 followers on Instagram. Most of them were people I saw every day, but in my mind, they were everything. They were a reflection of me, even if I didn't fully understand that yet. That night, it had been raining since sunset. Not the kind of storm that makes you run for cover, just a quiet, steady rain that made the streets glow under the streetlights, like the world had been dipped in silver. I was driving home from Amber's house after talking about everything. College plans, boys, who was dating who, and what everyone was posting on social media. My hair still smelled like her mom's vanilla candles, sweet and familiar. The radio was on low, just the hum of a soft song in the background. The windshield wipers kept a steady rhythm back and forth as I drove through the wet streets. Then my phone buzzed. It was a sound so small, but in that moment, it felt so loud. A story post from a guy I liked. I remember looking at it, thinking it wasn't a big deal, just a photo of him at some party, but something inside me said, check it. Just 1 second. I wasn't thinking, I wasn't worried. It was like my brain just made the decision for me. I reached down and grabbed my phone. 5 seconds. That's all it took. In those 5 seconds, the tires lost their grip on the wet road. I didn't see the curve coming. My headlights sliced through the rain-soaked night, illuminating the trees, the branches, and then the world shifted. The car jerked hard, spinning, and then the sound. The horrible, deafening screech of metal grinding against metal. The car slammed into something. The force of it crushed into my chest, the steering wheel slamming into me. Glass shattered everywhere, flying through the air in every direction. For just a second, I didn't know where I was. My whole body felt like it had been thrown into another world. Everything was pain, the kind of pain that took your breath away. The car was twisted, broken, and I was caught in it. The dashboard pressed against me, and I could feel the weight of the world closing in. My head was spinning, my vision was blurry, and all I could hear was this pounding in my ears, like my heart was trying to get out of my chest. But somehow, I could still feel the rain, the cold drops that kept falling through the broken windows. They splattered against my skin, but they didn't feel real anymore. Nothing felt real. It was like I was floating in that moment, the pain mixing with the chaos around me. My thoughts were scrambled. All I could think was that I had made a mistake. That stupid phone. If I hadn't picked it up, if I hadn't looked at it for just a second, none of this would have happened. But it did happen. The pain was real. The chaos was real. And the worst part was that I couldn't move. I couldn't feel my legs. My arms were pinned, and every breath was a struggle. It felt like I was suffocating in the silence of the wreck, with the world outside still turning, still moving on without me. And then everything went dark. The last thing I remember before it all went black was the taste of blood in my mouth, mixed with the smell of the rain and the faint hum of my phone buzzing somewhere in the wreckage. It was like the phone, the thing that started it all, was still reaching for me, still trying to pull me back into a world I wasn't sure I could get back to. Then, nothing. No sound, no feeling, no pain at first, just absolute nothing. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the car anymore. I was somewhere else. I was floating and standing at the same time. I had no weight, no breath, no heartbeat. I looked down, and the world below me was glowing in flashes of red and blue light that cut through the rain. 2 police cars, 1 ambulance. People rushing, their bodies moving quickly through the wet darkness. I could see their mouths moving, but I couldn't hear a single sound. Then I saw it, my car, twisted metal wrapped tight around a tree, smoke curling upward in thin white threads. The driver's side was smashed flat. I didn't need anyone to tell me what I already knew. Then I saw me. They were pulling my body out. My hair clung to my face, tangled with blood. My skin looked gray under the flashing lights. My neck bent in a way that didn't belong to the living. A paramedic knelt beside me, pressing hard on my chest, his hands moving fast and strong. Another one ripped open a medical bag and shouted something I couldn't hear. Their movements were sharp, desperate, filled with a kind of urgency that didn't touch me anymore. I watched it all, but I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel anything close to fear. Instead, there was this quiet spreading through me like a soft wave. Every thought, every worry, every tiny thing I used to care about, how I looked, if people liked me, what my last post got, just disappeared. The noise of life, the endless rush of it, was gone. There was peace. I could still see the rain, but it no longer soaked through me. I could still see the flashing lights, but they didn't burn my eyes. It was as if the world had slowed down, and I was watching it from the edge of time. I felt weightless, clear, untangled from everything. Time didn't exist there. Seconds felt like forever. I could see my body lying still below, and yet I was being lifted higher, pulled by something invisible and powerful. It wasn't scary. It felt natural, like I was meant to rise. The air around me shimmered, soft and warm. The trees, the lights, the people, they all blurred into gold and white. Then came the warmth. It wasn't heat like fire, but a deeper kind, one that wrapped around me like a promise. It wasn't a touch I could feel on my skin. It reached inside me, through everything I was. And then I sensed it, a presence. Not a person standing there, not a sound, but something alive. It felt like love, the purest kind I'd ever known. It called to me, not with words, but with knowing. It was stronger than any voice, softer than breath. It made the memory of pain and chaos fade into nothing but a shadow. The light grew brighter, almost alive. It pulsed gently, like it was breathing. And for the first time since the crash, I didn't want to look away. I wanted to move toward it. I felt pulled, drawn in, not by force, but by something that understood me completely. Then something began to shift, something my mind couldn't explain. The noise, the flashing red lights, the paramedics' voices shouting numbers, it all started to fade. The chaos that had swallowed everything just moments before melted away, like smoke drifting into a soft wind. Even my body, broken and heavy, started to feel distant, like it no longer belonged to me. A calm warmth rose around me, strong but peaceful, pulling me backward through what was left of the world I knew. Behind me, a light began to grow. Not harsh or blinding, but alive. It was the kind of light that seeps through your bedroom curtains on a quiet morning, when the world hasn't woken yet. I turned toward it, and the glow expanded, filling everything until there was nothing else left. It wrapped around me. Not like heat, but like being remembered, like being found after a long time lost. It didn't hurt. It felt like home. That warmth deepened until it felt like I was being held by every person who had ever loved me, and every moment I had ever needed love. And then I saw him. I didn't have to ask who he was. I knew. It was Jesus. Not a picture, not a story, not an idea. He was light itself. Alive, moving, breathing. The kind of light that carried meaning in every spark. Still, I could see the shape of a man standing there, radiant and real. The first thing I noticed were his eyes. They weren't just eyes. They were everything. When I looked into them, it felt like looking through time, through every heartbeat that ever existed. In those eyes, there was love. Not the kind that fades or changes or depends on what you do. It was love that knew me. Every thought I'd ever hidden, every mistake I tried to forget, every small act of corruption or weakness that I thought defined me. He saw all of it, every dark corner of me, and there was no anger, no judgment, only love that was so pure it burned away every weight I'd carried my whole life. I felt exposed but safe, as if being known completely was finally the same thing as being forgiven. Then he said my name. Marie? The sound of it wasn't a voice. It was everything at once. It was the sound of water running over stones, the sound of wind moving through trees, the sound of 1,000 memories colliding into one truth. It was my name, but it was more than that. It was who I was before the noise of the world, before the chaos and pain. It made me remember what it felt like to belong. I tried to answer, but no words came. Tears filled my eyes, not from pain, but from something deeper. Freedom, maybe. It felt like I had spent my whole life holding my breath, and for the first time I could finally let it go. He smiled, soft, knowing, almost like he'd been waiting for me all along. His smile carried something ancient and endless. "Walk with me," he said. "There's something you need to see." In a single breath, the world changed again. The light bent, and everything around us shifted. The blinding glow faded, and suddenly we were standing in a vast, endless space that felt alive, like being inside the heart of a star that was breathing. The air shimmered with color, gold and white swirling together like liquid fire. The walls, or what I thought were walls, weren't solid. They moved, alive and pulsing, made entirely of light that seemed to know I was there. It wasn't frightening, but it was too big, too beautiful for words. Then, just as I began to take it in, the space shifted again. The light folded over itself and became thousands of screens floating in every direction, stretching farther than I could see. Each one hovered in midair, alive with images. At first, it was quiet, like the calm before a storm, but then the sound came. A low hum, the sound of scrolling, tapping, notifications, voices blending together from all over the world. Every screen showed a different person, some young, some old, some smiling, some crying. Every face was lit by the same cold blue light of a phone screen. "Look closer," Jesus said. His voice was calm but heavy, filled with something I didn't have a name for. I turned to the nearest screen. On it, a girl, maybe 14, sat alone in her bedroom. Her walls were covered in posters. Her phone lit up her face as she scrolled. She wasn't crying, but her eyes were hollow, like she'd been drained. Around her, the shadows began to move, slow, crawling along the corners of her room. They whispered softly, words too faint to understand. Every time she stopped on a picture of someone else, someone prettier, happier, thinner, the shadows grew thicker. They twisted, feeding on something invisible. "What are those?" I asked. Jesus turned toward me. "They feed on comparison," he said, "on envy, on self-hatred, on the feeling that she will never be enough." His words hit like a weight. I couldn't look away. The shadows around the girl pressed closer as she scrolled faster, her thumb trembling. Then he pointed to another screen, a boy this time, maybe 12, sitting in a dark room with only the light of his TV. His face didn't move, but his eyes burned with something sharp. On the screen in front of him, a game played out. Violence, destruction, control. Shadows danced around him, but these were different. They moved quicker, restless, changing shape. "They feed on rage," Jesus said softly, "on the hunger for control, on the fantasy that power can fix what's broken inside." We kept moving, if you could call it that. There was no floor, no ceiling. It was like floating through truth itself. Screen after screen surrounded us, people of all ages, a woman sitting in traffic, gripping her phone tight, a man alone in his kitchen, reading hateful comments, a teenager taking photo after photo, deleting every one that didn't look perfect. A child crying quietly after seeing something cruel online. Everywhere, the same blue glow. The same quiet despair. The same shadows. Some were thin and whispering, others thick like smoke. They wrapped around people's shoulders, crept into their minds, and fed, always feeding. "These spirits have always existed," Jesus said. His eyes, brighter than anything I'd ever seen, looked out across the sea of screens. But never before have they had such easy access to so many minds, to so many hearts. He turned to me, and for a moment, the entire space pulsed with light. "Your generation," he said, "gave them a doorway. You handed them the key." He reached out and took my hand, and in that single touch, everything changed again. The light around us folded, and suddenly I was standing in my own room, familiar but distant, like a memory turned alive. My bed was messy, blankets half off, my phone glowing in my hand. I was lying there, scrolling through Instagram when I should have been asleep, my eyes tired but still hungry for something I couldn't name. I could see myself so clearly, and it broke something inside me. Then, another scene. I was at the dinner table, my phone beside my plate. My mom was talking, Something about her day, maybe about my brother's, but I wasn't really listening. My fingers kept sliding across the screen, my eyes locked on it like it held something more important than her voice. I could see her face now, the quiet hurt she tried to hide when I didn't look up. I had never noticed it before. Then the vision shifted again. I saw myself in front of the mirror, taking picture after picture, trying to find one that looked right. One where I looked happy, confident, perfect. I would tilt my head, change the light, change the angle, forcing a smile that never felt real. I watched that girl, me, trying to capture something I didn't even understand. Each photo was like a tiny cry I hadn't realized I was making. And then I saw them. The dark shapes again. They were everywhere, behind me, around me, moving like smoke. Their whispers slithered through the air, sharp and cold. You're not pretty enough. Look at her. She's better than you. Nobody really likes you. You need more followers, more likes, more attention. You'll never be enough. Each word felt like ice cutting through my chest. I could feel the weight of every lie I believed, every quiet moment I traded for validation that never lasted. I started crying, not from fear this time, but from understanding. It was like my heart had been cracked open. I didn't know, I whispered. I had no idea. Jesus looked at me, his eyes calm but filled with something I couldn't name. Most don't, he said softly. That's why I'm showing you. And then everything began to shift. The light around us pulsed like a living heartbeat. It was like everything in the universe was breathing together, alive and awake. I stood beside Jesus in a vast, endless space that felt more real than anything I'd ever known. It wasn't like anything on earth, more like a command center, but with light so pure, so deep, that it seemed to carry the weight of all existence. There were no walls, no boundaries, just a space that stretched on forever. Around us, beings of light moved with a grace that was beyond anything I could comprehend, responding to what I somehow knew were prayers rising up from earth. The way they moved, each shift, each turn, was like music, like a symphony of love and purpose. They were so focused, so full of light, that it was impossible to look away. Watch, Jesus said, his voice steady, calm. He lifted his hand, and the space in front of us opened, like a window sliding away to reveal another world. I saw a teenage girl, sitting on the edge of her bed, her hands folded in front of her. She was trembling, but her voice, when it came, was steady, like she had asked this question 1,000 times before. She whispered her prayer, and her words, soft as they were, became streams of light. I watched as those words shot up, twisting into golden threads that soared into the sky. Instantly, several of those shining beings turned in unison, as if they'd felt the power of her prayer. A shield of light formed around her, surrounding her completely. The dark shadows that had been circling her, waiting, slipped away into nothingness, like smoke dissolving in the air. One sincere prayer, Jesus said, his tone soft but strong. That's all it takes to activate heaven's protection. I didn't say anything, but the weight of it all sank in deep. That one moment, just one honest prayer, could change everything. Jesus showed me more. Scenes, moments that felt like memories from some better world. A world that wasn't broken. I saw families gathered around dinner tables, no phones, no distractions, just the sound of laughter and voices blending together in a harmony that felt so real. Teenagers outside, the sun on their faces, talking and moving with energy, full of life and hope. I saw people reading real books, their fingers turning the pages with a kind of reverence. I saw friends sitting close, their eyes meeting, their hearts wide open. It was like time itself had slowed, and I was witnessing something pure, something untouchable by the chaos of earth. This is connection, Jesus said, his voice full of love. Real connection, what you were made for. There was so much meaning in his words, so much weight, so much truth. He wasn't just talking about how things could be, but how things were meant to be. How we were meant to be, connected, alive, and full of love. Something deep inside me felt like it was waking up, like a part of me that had been sleeping for so long was finally seeing what it had always been meant for. Then the light around me began to fade, slow and soft, like the end of a sunset that didn't want to go. And in that dim glow, something shifted deep inside me. What came next pierced straight through my soul. I saw them, my parents, sitting in a cold hospital waiting room. The air was still, heavy, full of silence that screamed louder than words. My mom's face was buried in my dad's chest, shaking. My dad, the man who never broke, who always kept it together no matter what, had tears streaming down his face. His hands trembled as he held her close. "They love you so much, Marie," Jesus said beside me. His voice calm but full of power, more than any follower, any like, any comment ever could. And then the vision changed. I saw my little brothers. Tyler, just 10 years old, sitting cross-legged on the hospital floor, holding my old stuffed bear like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. He kept asking where I was, if I was coming back, if I was going to die. Jake, 14, stood in the hallway outside the waiting room. He hit the wall with his fist hard. The sound echoed. Then he slid down to the floor, covering his face with both hands, his shoulders shaking. I wanted to run to them, to hold them, to tell them I was still here. My hands reached out, but they passed through the vision like it was smoke. "I want to go back," I said, my voice cracking, heavy with everything I couldn't say. "Please, I need to tell them. I need to tell everyone what I saw." Jesus looked at me. His eyes, if you could even call them that, were full of something more than light. They carried understanding so deep it felt like it knew every memory I'd ever had. "Is that what you truly want? To go back?" I hesitated. Being there with him felt like everything inside me had finally come home. There was no fear, no noise, no corruption, no pain, only peace. The kind of peace you don't realize you've been missing until you find it. Leaving that behind felt impossible. "It will hurt," he said softly. "Your body is broken. The road back will not be easy." "I know," I whispered, "but they need to know. My family, my friends, everyone staring into their screens thinking that's life. They need to understand what's real." Jesus smiled gently. "That's why I chose you, Marie. Your heart has always been bigger than your world allowed others to see." He reached out and took my hands. His touch was warm and real. I saw the scars in his palms, and in that moment, I understood more than words could explain. "Remember what you've seen," he said. "Tell them their worth isn't measured in likes. Tell them connection is face to face, heart to heart. Tell parents to listen, to watch, to protect the hearts of their children, because the battle for their minds is real." I tried to memorize everything, his face, his voice, the light that poured from him like a heartbeat made of love. I didn't want to forget. I didn't want to leave. "One more thing," he said, leaning closer until his light filled my vision. "Tell them I love them. Tell them I'm waiting for them to talk to me. All they have to do is look up from their screens long enough to listen." Then he pulled me into his arms. The hug felt like stepping into sunlight that never ends. It was warmth and home and safety all at once. "It's time," he whispered. And then everything went dark. Pain. That was the first thing that tore through me, raw, burning alive. It felt like fire crawling beneath my skin, lighting every nerve. Beeping sounds cut through the haze, fast and uneven. The light above me was too bright, stabbing at my eyes. I tried to breathe, but a tube in my throat pushed back, choking me. The air tasted like metal, sharp and sterile. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Everything around me felt far away, like I was underwater. Then a voice broke through the noise, trembling but clear. "We've got a pulse. She's back." My whole body screamed. Even breathing felt like fighting a storm. The medication dulled nothing. The pain had its own heartbeat, pulsing through every inch of me. And still, underneath it all, something inside me wanted to go back to that still, glowing place where I had stood with Jesus, where everything was light and peace and love that didn't end or break. Then another sound, soft, shaking, full of hope. "Marie, baby, can you hear me?" My mother's voice. I tried to answer, but my mouth refused. My body was locked, heavy, foreign. Then her hand found mine. I could feel her fingers trembling. I used everything I had left to press my hand back into hers. She gasped. That tiny sound told me she knew I was still there. After that, it fades, just drifting between darkness and light. I later learned I had been gone for 9 minutes and 36 seconds. Long enough for the doctors to give up. Long enough for my family to whisper final prayers. They said by every rule of medicine, I shouldn't have come back. Or if I did, I should have been an empty shell, brain gone, memory erased, life reduced to machines. But 3 weeks later, I walked out of that hospital. My ribs still ached, my scars pulled tight against my skin, but my mind was clear, my thoughts sharp, my soul awake. The doctors called it a miracle. And it was, but not the kind they understood. They didn't see the vision that had marked me, the shift that had already begun inside. They didn't understand what it meant to wake up in a world that no longer felt the same. Coming back was harder than I expected. The world felt off, like I'd been gone for years, not weeks. People's faces were pale from phone light, their eyes hollow from scrolling. Everyone was looking down, not at each other. The air buzzed with distraction. Even laughter felt thinner somehow. I tried to blend in, to act normal again, but I couldn't. Everything around me seemed fake, shallow, covered in noise. And sometimes, when I passed a dark window or caught my reflection in a store mirror, I saw things. Shadows hovering at the edges, feeding off the glow of screens, whispering through the silence. They were real. I knew it. I could feel them watching, waiting. When I told my parents, Mom went pale. Her hands shook as she prayed under her breath. Dad didn't say a word. He just gripped my hand until I could feel his pulse hammering against mine. They believed me. They had seen too much to doubt anymore. My friends didn't react the same. Some laughed, nervous and unsure. Others avoided me, like my story might rub off on them. But a few stayed. They listened. They asked questions. Those few were enough. I deleted everything, Instagram, TikTok, all of it. The silence afterward was brutal. My hands kept twitching for a phone that wasn't there. My brain kept expecting the rush, the flood of noise and likes and updates. It was like cutting off an addiction I didn't know I had. For days I felt hollow, restless. But then, slowly, something inside began to clear. One morning, sitting by my window, I noticed the sky for the first time in months. The clouds were glowing pink at the edges, like fire brushing against the horizon. I could hear my little brother Tyler humming at the kitchen table, tapping his pencil as he did his homework. My mom was talking softly to my dad about her day, her voice full of warmth. The smell of coffee drifted through the air, and for the first time I felt present. I wasn't somewhere else. I wasn't lost in a feed or a false life. I was here, alive. That's when I started the support group at school. Just 3 of us at first, me, Amber, and Lucas, sitting in the counselor's office during lunch with our phones off. We talked about everything we missed while staring at screens. We called it Look Up, a reminder, a promise, to lift our eyes, to see the world again, to see each other. Word spread faster than I expected. More students came, some just to listen, others to talk. Then the local paper wrote about it. A reporter from Portland showed up with a camera. Soon kids from other towns started messaging, asking how to begin their own groups. It wasn't about rules. It was about remembering what real connection felt like. At home, everything shifted too. Dad dropped his phone in a wicker basket by the door when he got home. Mom deleted her social media accounts. We started having dinners again. No screens, no buzzing notifications, just us. Real conversation, laughter. I'd forgotten how alive Dad's laugh sounded when he really let go, or how Mom's eyes sparkled when she talked about her garden or her patients at the clinic. The house felt full again, whole. It's been 6 months since that night, and I still see pieces of it everywhere. The scars are part of me now. A long one down my arm that catches the light when I move, another tracing across my collarbone, and smaller marks scattered along my face like faint reminders of what I've survived. When I laugh too hard, I still feel a sharp pull in my ribs, like my body remembering what it went through. But it's okay. Every scar is a map back to life, a reminder that I got another chance, that I'm still here, breathing, learning what really matters. Yesterday, a girl I barely knew walked up to me in the school hallway. She looked nervous, her eyes red and puffy like she'd been crying. She said, "I deleted all my social media last week after hearing you talk." Her voice was shaky but honest. "I've been so depressed, always comparing myself to everyone online. But this week, it's been different. I actually felt okay, like I could breathe for the first time in forever." Then she looked at me and said, "That's why I'm telling my story now. That's why I came back. If you're watching this, I need you to listen. Your worth isn't in your followers or your likes. Those apps, they're designed to pull you in, to feed you just enough validation to keep you hooked, but never enough to make you whole. There's something darker behind it too, a kind of corruption hiding under the surface. Spiritual forces that feed on your attention, your time, your focus. They want you distracted. They want you isolated. They whisper that you're not enough, but you are. You always were. Parents, please listen. Your kids are fighting a silent war. You might not see it, but it's there. Behind every scrolling thumb, behind every forced smile in a photo. They're drowning in comparison, in noise, in the weight of invisible expectations. They don't need another lecture. They need you. Your full attention. Not the half-distracted kind you give while checking emails or watching TV. They need your presence. Real connection. The kind that reminds them they belong here, that they matter more than the numbers on a screen. Put the phone down. Sit with them. Talk, laugh, pray. Even if you've never prayed before, do it. I'm telling you, prayer changes things. It changed me. I saw what happens when you pray, and I know now, it matters more than you could ever imagine. I'm not saying throw your phones away. I get it. We live in a digital world, but be intentional. Create moments where devices are off. Look up from the screens. Feel the air, listen to the quiet, see the people right in front of you. Remember what it feels like to be fully alive, to be human, because I died looking down at my phone. I missed the curve in the road because I couldn't wait 5 more minutes. That single decision cost me everything. It's strange how something so small, so ordinary, can shift your whole life. But it can, and it did. So please, don't make the same mistake I did. Whatever's on your phone, it can wait. The people in front of you, the ones who love you, they can't. During the vision, Jesus showed me something I'll never forget. 2 paths stretched out before me. 2 futures. In one, people were glued to their screens, lost in their own little worlds. No one looked up. No one spoke. Shadows moved around them, growing stronger, feeding off their silence and fear. But in the other future, people were reconnecting. They were laughing again, holding hands, praying together. There was still darkness, still chaos, but it was shrinking, pushed back by light, by love, by real human presence. Jesus didn't tell me which one would happen. He just looked at me quietly, and I knew it was up to us. So when this video ends, don't scroll. Don't just move on to the next thing. Stop, breathe, find someone you love and really look at them, see them, tell them what they mean to you. That's why I'm here. That's why I came back, to remind you to look up while you still can.